The Voice in the Valley. I was traveling through Romania, deep in the Carpathian Mountains. A small village lay hidden in the mist, surrounded by steep cliffs and thick forests. The locals warned me of a place in the valley. Never answer the voices. Even if someone calls your name, do not respond. If you do, you will never return. I thought it was just superstition, until one night I heard my own name from the valley. I was staying in an old inn at the village's edge. The wooden floors creaked and the fire in the hearth flickered weakly. The villagers were kind, but at night a strange silence fell over the place. You shouldn't go outside after dark, the innkeeper warned. Why? Because the valley wakes up. Something about the way he said it lingered in my mind. Midnight. I couldn't sleep. I glanced out the window. A sea of white mist swirled through the valley below. It was beautiful, almost hypnotic. Before I knew it, I had stepped outside. The cold air bit at my skin as I followed the cobbled path toward the valley. Then, someone called my name. Takashi. I froze. The voice came from the mist. Familiar, but I couldn't remember whose it was. The innkeeper's words echoed in my mind. Never answer the voices. I stood still. The mist trembled. Takashi. Again. Closer. Something was coming from the depths of the valley, but there was nothing there. The footsteps grew louder. Takashi, why are you ignoring me? A whisper, right next to my ear. Panic surged through me. I clenched my fists, forcing myself not to turn around. But then, a terrible thought crept into my mind. How did it know my name? Beyond the mist, something moved. A shadow. As the fog briefly parted, I saw it. It was me. The figure standing in the mist looked exactly like me, but the eyes were wrong. Dark, empty, and it was smiling. Takashi. It reached out its hand. I staggered backward. Then, the mist came alive. Dozens of white hands rose from the ground, dragging, crawling. Say your name. Answer us. The whispers tangled around me, suffocating. I squeezed my eyes shut and ran. I didn't stop running until I crashed through the inn's doors. The fire had nearly died. The innkeeper stared at me for a long moment. Then he simply said, "You heard them, didn't you?" I couldn't answer. By morning, the valley was clear. But when I looked down from the village, I saw them. Footprints, dozens of them, leading deep into the valley, even to places I had never walked. The Red Sand Path. I was traveling through Morocco. From Marrakesh, I had taken a long bus ride, then switched to a jeep, heading deep into the arid lands where small villages stood against the endless Sahara. Sun-dried mud houses, the golden dunes stretching to infinity. I was sitting in the village market sipping mint tea when I asked an old man, "Is there any unusual place around here?" He studied me for a long moment before replying, "Do not walk the red sand path." Why? Those who do never return. The red sand path was a narrow trail beyond the village, cutting through the dunes. They said that shadows appear there, ones that do not belong to you. It is the path of those who walked before you, the old man said. If your shadow changes, you will never find your way back. It sounded like nothing more than a legend. But the next day, I found myself walking that path. The trail stretched endlessly under the scorching sun. Unlike the surrounding sand, this path was distinctly red. The heat made the air shimmer. The only sound was the soft hiss of sand shifting in the wind. "It's just a desert road," I muttered, and then I noticed it. There were two shadows. One was mine. The other was ahead of me. I stopped. The sun was behind me, meaning my shadow should be stretching forward. But the second shadow, it wasn't aligned with me. It was moving ahead, like it was leading the way. "Just an illusion," I whispered. I took another step. The shadow moved too, but slightly before me, like I was the one following it. I stopped. The sun was behind me, meaning my shadow should be stretching forward. But the second shadow, it wasn't aligned with me. It was moving ahead, like it was leading the way. "Just an illusion," I whispered. I took another step. The shadow moved too, but slightly before me, like I was the one following it. I need to turn back. I turned, and my breath caught. The road behind me was gone. No footprints, no village, just miles of red sand. This isn't real. Sweat trickled down my back. I turned again. The shadow was still there, still ahead. And then the wind shifted, the sand swirled, and the shadow turned to face me. It was human-shaped, but featureless. It stood there, blocking my path. The wind died down. Silence returned, and I realized it was no longer my shadow. "Who are you?" I murmured. At those words, it moved. It took a step forward. It made no sound. Only the sand darkened beneath its feet, and then its feet overlapped with mine. The drowning town. I was traveling through Java, Indonesia. A small town nestled between volcanoes and dense jungle. The market was alive with the scent of spices, the hum of conversation, the warmth of life. But the locals spoke of a place where no one dared to go. Never step into the drowning town. At night, voices rise from beneath the ground. What lingers there is not among the living. It sounded like folklore. But I saw the town myself. At the edge of the town, there was a lake. Its surface was still, mirroring the sky. "This used to be a village," a local man told me. "An earthquake took it?" I asked. He shook his head. "No. One night the entire village just disappeared." A half-submerged stone road led into the water. The path was old, cracked, but it didn't stop at the water's edge. It kept going, straight into the lake, as if the road still led somewhere. That night, the lake was silent. The stars stretched endlessly above, their light reflecting on the still water. And I wondered, if the town is down there, maybe something remains? I stepped forward, testing the old stone beneath my feet, and then someone was walking beneath the water. The ripples barely moved, but I could hear it. Footsteps, slow, steady, coming closer, but nothing should be walking underwater. The sound grew louder. Something was approaching from deep within the lake. I held my breath. A shadow flickered across the surface. It was human-shaped, but its feet were buried in the lake bed as it moved. "Who's there?" The words left my lips before I could stop them. The shadow froze, and then another set of footsteps began. This time, right behind me. I shouldn't turn around. I knew that, but it was already too late. I looked at my reflection in the water, and beside it, there was another shadow. It wasn't mine. It moved, closer, aligning itself with my own, like it was trying to become me. The cold spread from my feet. The lake had risen. The water was now at my knees. I tried to back away, but from beneath the surface, hands began to rise. Pale fingers reached upward. A whisper drifted through the air. Go back. The voice, it was my own. When I came to, I was lying at the water's edge. Dawn had started to break, but the lake's surface still rippled, and though I wasn't looking anymore, I could feel that something was still looking at me.